What's up, beautiful people? Welcome to Jocz Productions. In this video, I will be quickly explaining the Constitution of the United States. There were a lot of differences between the Articles of Confederation and the Constitution. The Constitution gave the federal government the power to tax. The Constitution had a president in the executive branch. The national government could regulate trade. And there were changes to the makeup of the legislative branch and how representation was handled. In addition, under the Constitution, federal power is superior to state power. More on that in just a moment. In spite of all these changes, there were some continuities between the two documents. What was established in both after the American Revolution was not another monarchy. Both the Articles and the Constitution created a republic. At the Constitutional Convention, the delegates from the various states created a central government with dramatically increased powers from the Articles of Confederation. In spite of these increased powers of the federal government, the framers still created a central government with limits to its power. Don't get it confused and think the federal government is some nearly unstoppable force under the Constitution. The first thing to note about the new federal government was that they created a system of government known as federalism. Federalism is a system in which power is split between a national government or federal government and the state governments. Federalism means some power is shared between the federal government and the various state governments. And it's important to note, a stronger federal government does not mean the states lose all of their powers. Let me show you what this looks like in practice. Under the Constitution, certain powers are delegated to the national government. For instance, the power to coin money, declare war, international affairs, deliver the mail, interstate and international trade are all powers granted to the national government. There are also powers not granted specifically to the federal government that fall to the states. Things such as regulating business within the state or intrastate trade, education, and others you see on the list are all powers that the state government still retain. And under the Constitution, there are also powers shared by both the federal and state governments. This is federalism. One of these powers that is shared is the power to tax. Now, Article 6 of the Constitution is known as the Supremacy Clause. Basically, what it says is the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. What this means is if a state and federal law contradict one another, the federal law is supreme. In other words, federal law supersedes state laws when a conflict exist. In order to establish limits on the power of the federal government, the framers of the Constitution provided for a separation of powers between the three branches of government. The legislative branch makes the law, the executive branch implements and enforces the laws, and the judicial branch interprets the laws. The power of the Supreme Court to really interpret the law will come later with the Supreme Court case of Marbury versus Madison in 1803. I will be talking about this case in another video, but for now, foreshadowing. This system of separation of powers was created in order for the different branches to be able to check one another. Checks and balances allows for the individual branches of government to restrict the power of the different branches. Examples of these checks and balances are as follows. Congress makes the law, but a president can veto the law. Congress can still get a law that has been vetoed passed by getting a 2/3 majority vote in both houses of Congress, and the judicial branch can determine whether or not a law is unconstitutional or not. There are many other examples of checks and balances. If you want to know more, hit pause and soak up all this government goodness you see right there. Another thing to note about the Constitution is that it is considered a living document.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
By a living document, I do not mean the Constitution is walking around saying hello and rating your fridge of your roommate Sam Adams beer. The Constitution is known as a living document because it can be amended, although in over 200 years, there have only been 27 amendments. Remember, even the Bill of Rights was included after the Constitutional Convention of 1787. The purpose of the Bill of Rights was to secure and protect the rights not explicitly stated in the Constitution. For instance, even though the Constitution created a stronger national government, the 10th Amendment reads the powers not delegated to the U.S. are reserved to the states. To give you an idea of the dynamic nature of the Constitution, the following things were not in the original document: two-term presidential, term limits, the direct election of senators, slavery being unconstitutional, and some historians argued the Constitution was not a democratic document. In the Constitution, there were all sorts of checks on the democratic process. The Electoral College was created to protect the vote of the presidency from the whims of the population. In the original Constitution, senators were actually selected by state legislatures rather than the voting public. In many ways, the Constitution, as originally designed, was designed to check the popular will of the people. Fortunately, amendments to the Constitution, at least 7 of them, will dramatically address the lack of voting rights for various groups in American society. Sadly, it's going to take a long time for some groups to attain even that basic right, the right to vote. And in our next video, we will get this Constitution in full effect and look at the topic, Shaping a New Republic. Until next time, thank you so much for watching. Have a beautiful day. Peace.